The Schneidercast, everyone, where we take an in-depth look at the works of Dan Schneider. Today, it's the pilot. I'm John. He's Nick.
And I'm Kenny.
And he's Kenny. And welcome.
Jonah the cat.
And Jonah the cat, who is walking around the studio right now. Today, welcome to the first season of the Schneidercast, where we're going through Season 1 of the Nickelodeon television series Victorious. It was the 2012 and 2013 favorite TV show as voted at the Kids' Choice Awards.
It's worth noting that I have never seen a single episode of it beforehand.
Neither have I.
And yes, I come in with the most experienced backing on this show. I watched the show quite a lot growing up.
I have to say, we did grow up on the Schneider shows, primarily Drake and Josh and all of that.
Yeah.
So there's some experience.
Yeah, and I've had this conversation with quite a few people, discussing what the favorite, Dan Schneider show is. And, Drake and Josh gets the primary response from people in our age group, but, I think it's a great show, but I always had a soft spot for Victorious as my favorite of the Schneider shows, which we will hopefully be tackling all of them at some point during this show. So, yeah.
Let's get into it. Let's talk about the first
let's
episode.
get into that.
Because I really want to talk about that creepy puppet.
We
do need to address the puppet.
The puppet in the room.
We'll get to the puppet in the room eventually. So, episode 1 was creatively titled Pilot, aired originally March 27th, 2010. And we're going to be reading all of our plot synopses from the Victorious Wiki, found at victorious.fandom.com. So if there are any discrepancies, we'll hopefully be tackling them while we discuss, but you can yell at those editors for any things that are wrong. So Tori Vega, played by Victoria Justice, gets a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to attend Hollywood Arts High School, a school that teaches kids performing arts. On her way to class, she meets Robbie Shapiro, played by Matt Bennett, a shy boy who often talks through his ventriloquist dummy, Rex, and Kat Valentine, played by Ariane Grande. Does anyone know who that is?
No.
I don't think she's going to get anywhere.
No.
A girl who's sometimes ditzy. In her class, she meets Jade West, played by Elizabeth Gillies, a mean girl who often dresses in black and gothic clothing, and her boyfriend, Beck Oliver, played by Avon Jogia. Don't know if I pronounced that right, probably not, who is calm and composed. So, the one thing that I was really getting while we were watching this is, you were very hung up, Nick, on this puppet.
Yes, because during the episode, after she does her performance, which they forced her to do, and everyone was okay with it, I saw in the background there was a face that did not look right. When you looked at the other faces, you have normal person, and then normal person, and then right next to them, between Tori's face and someone else's face, a wooden face that looked like it had the mumps. It looked like the Elephant Man.
Yeah, and it's been a few years since I've watched this episode, or really any episode of this show, really. And maybe it's just me with how much I've watched the other episodes. I could see some lack of polish, really, and it was the pilot. I understand
that puppet had a real lack of polish.
Yeah, I really don't remember the puppet looking that terrifying, and that might have been just me being a child blocking out these traumatic memories.
Now, I wrote an important note. I asked if that was Franklin Delano Bluth from Arrested Development, and I feel like this could be
the puppet in this...
After Arrested Development ended, he needed to move on. Everyone else moved on.
I always say, but the puppet did not look white, so maybe it was. I think they had to get a new puppet after this pilot. I feel like they spent the budget on, the fancy show, the background dancers, and they had, $20, and they were go to TJ Maxx, just find something that looks like a puppet, and we'll spruce it up.
And, like I said, I don't remember it looking that terrifying, and I will see when we get to the next episode, just if this is just...
Can you look up what if the puppet has, a different look? What's the puppet's name?
Rex.
Rex, okay.
And, I don't know if you want to spoil that for yourself before we get to the next episode. But
just I don't need to see the puppet. Just tell me if it looks different.
So while Kenny's looking it up, I guess we can... Nick, do you have anything that really stuck out to you before we get into...
Well, one of the first things I want to notice is the very beginning of the episode. She's doing some kind of science experiment, maybe making meth or something, I don't know, drugs, making observations, and there's this weird boy who's just in the room with her, who's not addressed at all, and after that scene just falls into a black hole. So I assume she's just leaving him out to dry.
And I did make note. The first note that I made is that unnamed partner for science project, who, like you said, does not get discussed.
Yeah. And then Andre comes in, and they do the whole rehearsal, and her annoying sister's there. I assume she doesn't get any better. And then they have these weird transitions of, like, Facebook and MySpace combined.
Yeah, the one thing, you were really hung up on the fact that this show did not age well as far as these transitions go. And, I get that. It was very hammed in, social media sort of thing. But, kids these days are attached to their phones still. So, there's some sort of truth in that.
They did have the mood thing, and we noticed before Facebook put it in.
Pioneers
of social media.
I was thinking about that, and we did discuss that during the watching. That every time there was one of these transitions, Tori posts a status on the slap.com, the hip social media outlet of the day for this fictional high school.
So they go through the fake transition, and then they're outside, and they're sipping on green juice. I don't know what it is. It could be anything.
But, and I did mention during the watch through that, I feel like they Facebook stole that from them. Which, and then I started to realize, and I was thinking back, oh wait, no, the original thing that Facebook was like is, what are you doing? And it's like, John is blah, blah, blah. So, like, the emotions and feelings stuff was, like, sort of there, but, like, I didn't remember. But obviously it came before you could react emotions to statuses. So I felt like, Zuckerberg, were you watching the show growing up?
There was that weird phase in Facebook at the beginning where people were like, oh, Nick is punching babies. And then they kind of dropped the is part.
So Nick punching babies is what your Facebook says right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do want to interject and go back to the puppet. He does go over a bit of a makeover. It's not huge, but he does look slightly better.
Okay, so they updated his budget to $30.
Yes, it was a slight budget increase.
Okay.
Well, again, this was just the pilot. They didn't know how far the show was going to get.
Yeah, it was very possible that they didn't expect this puppet character to continue past the pilot.
I hope the puppet does not continue past the first season.
He absolutely does.
I don't want to spoil it for you, Nick, but get used to seeing a lot of Rex.
Boy.
Let's just get it. Let's just dive in.
Yeah, let's jump to. Because we talked about, the transition, she talks to, her sister. Her sister does her singing. It's a beautiful voice. She's fantastic. She's terrific. Everyone says so.
So the series premiere starts with Tori Vega working on a science project with her lab partner, when her older sister, Trina, storms into the house. Trina's upset that her partner for the annual showcase at Hollywood Arts High School is Andre Harris, a 10th grader. She knows that there is going to be important talent scouts and music industry workers at the show, which is making her nervous as she really wants to impress them. Trina kicks Ian, Tori's partner, out, and insists that her sister helps her and Andre with the song that she'll perform. Yeah, so, he doesn't have... He was unnamed in the episode. I don't know
Wait, but if she's doing a science and she's not... Does he go to the show? Does he go to the Hollywood Performing Arts Center too?
No, because this is before Tori
Then how did they name him?
Listen, I question where VictoriousFandom.com gets their sources. Maybe they found a script. Maybe one of the actors has, commented and shared that information.
I can already see the Reddit AMA. I was Ian on the Victorious podcast.
For the 5 minutes of screen time before I'm never seen again. I did look on his page because he does have a page on this wiki.
Of course he does.
And, this is his only appearance. Ian is the boy who helped Tori with her mold bush science project at the beginning of the pilot episode, and that's it. So...
Good job, Ian.
And also, Tori doesn't go back to the school after this, so, hope Ian did good on his project.
We're rooting for you, Ian.
Maybe we should have a spin-off of just him, see how his life goes after he loses his science partner. Ends up on the streets doing drugs.
It's been, 9 years at this point? I think it's time for Dan Schneider to make a new show. We could see what's going on in the life and times of Ian, last name unknown. There's the science project that really isn't discussed any further. Ian gets kicked out the door by Trina, and that's about it. Our first introduction to Trina, she's a terrible human being.
Yeah, all around. She's terrible to Tori, terrible to Andre. Poor Andre. I feel like he's gonna get shafted this whole show.
And again, it's been a few years since I watched the show. I remember Trina being like an awful character human-wise, but I didn't remember her being that over the top. So, you know, we're going to have to see how that relationship between the two sisters goes on as the show progresses. Whilst working together, Tori and Andre form a friendship despite Trina driving them insane. And when Andre sits down at the piano and plays a little tune, it has Tori in awe.
It's a decent song. It could be a bop, I feel. I assume it's the theme song.
Yes, that is the theme song.
Because, you know,
the pilot didn't have a introduction sequence.
Yeah, in every musical show, they always have the pilot have the first song, and that becomes the theme song.
Yes.
Because, God forbid, they put a different song
And,
in.
you know, Make It Shine is a very good song, in my personal opinion. I think it serves as a good theme song for the show. But, you know, just as, you know, I can't sit here and say that I'm a master musician, because I'm not. You know, I don't play instruments, but, you know, everyone just magically being wooed by Andre's basic piano playing, you know, it didn't make much sense to me.
Are you calling Andre basic?
No, I'm calling his piano playing basic.
I thought it was wonderful.
You know, it's just
I don't
the
know
fact.
much about piano, but it was wonderful.
And then he has this, you know, one-sided telephone call with his grandmother. Shout out to John Mulaney. Where, you know, it just seemed like, you know, we'll meet the grandmother later in the episode.
The grandmother, I thought, was fantastic in her one scene. Of her
She
immediately running away.
Stole that scene.
Nick, you were laughing. You know, the only time I really saw you laughing in this episode was when the grandmother.
Because she had the perfect reaction, like, some weird stranger talks to you, is like, are you Andre's grandmother? Like, some random girl, like, I would run away and hide. She knows she's in a Nickelodeon show universe. What happens later in this episode validates her concerns of hiding, I think.
It's very true. You know, it starts off as a very grounded show, it seems like, and then quickly escalates during the second half.
I was talking about the social norms that they seem to inhabit here. But we can go over that when we get to them.
So speaking of which, you know, we'll get into the showcase now. Tori skips school to attend the showcase with her parents. The family is called backstage before the performance starts, only to discover that Trina's tongue has swollen up because she was allergic to an herb gargle that she drank.
I am counting the swollen tongue as the first Schneider fetish of the series. I don't know if it is a fetish. I assume it is, because there's talk of rubbing it.
You know, you know, there's been a lot of talk about our boy Dan Schneider on the internet, a lot of rumors going around about, you know, things that may or may not have happened. I don't recall tongue fetishes being one of them.
I wrote down two interesting quotes regarding the tongue. Throbbing erratically and massage her tongue.
It was, you know, it's one of those things that's like, haha, random geek humor. But also, like, looking at it from an adult perspective, like, that's just, no.
That's wrong. Like, that's a serious medical condition she has.
It's a weird thing for an adult to say to a high schooler.
But also,
there's a lot of weird things that adults do in this show and that kids do. But, like, the way her tongue was swollen was so swollen, like, they needed to get her to a hospital as soon as possible.
Yeah, there was no way she could properly breathe with that thing.
Mm-hmm.
But also, you know...
Well, because it was throbbing erratically.
To quote a character in themselves. But before they even got to backstage, you know, you see Tori and the parents and Andre's grandmother, you know, sitting in the crowd. And then you just hear, you know, the screams and moans of pain coming from Trina, and no one's acknowledging it.
All the parents are just, it's in the audience, like, bobbing their heads, like, yeah, these two random breakdancers are really doing good. Their breakdancing is muffling the cries of help.
So, no, what I think they're trying to establish is this is a universe where people scream.
And it's just, you know, it's a boy crying wolf, or in this case, a girl crying swollen tongue. Like,
I assume in the the Nickelodeon Snyderverse, like, all the shows take place in the same, like, universe, that just children screaming for help is just a common occurrence. Well, or they're just very neglectful.
And I mean, you know, I think that might just be like how his style, you know, sort of progressed through the ages, because, you know, I watched Zoe 101 also, which came before this, and it was, you know, there was no laugh track. It was a very grounded show.
Zoe 101 was a completely different style than his other shows.
Yeah, so like...
That was multi-camera.
Yeah, and, you know, I think maybe, like, that style of humor sort of, like, changed. Like, Zoe 101 was a great show, too, which I'm sure we'll get to at some point.
I think it changed to be cheaper to produce.
Yeah, but also, like, I mean, Drake and Josh had some random haha funny moments, like, because, you know, random is funny to children, but, like, I wrote down, you know, haha random Chinese herb gargle gag. Like, what does that even mean? Like,
it means random Chinese herb. thing.
So, fact of the matter is
Look, I'm not going to sit here and say that Schneider shows are the pinnacle of racial sensitivity, because they're not.
And are you saying they're not a pinnacle of comedic value? Like, this is not,
I mean...
Like, to me, it goes like, Airplane, the film is like top-notch quality
right
comedy,
below
and
it.
right below it is
Anything
all of Dan Schneider's works. So the fact of the matter is that Trina can't perform due to her tongue swelling, and,
instead of canceling like every other show would do...
Yes.
Or just having the orchestral piece of it, they decide, let's force this 14-year-old girl against her will, with her literally grabbing on to like a pipe for dear life into performing. And I mean grabbing her and forcibly carrying her from it to backstage, forcibly undressing her and dressing her up.
Yes, so the guidance counselor, Lane Alexander, who's a very common
Wait, that's the guidance counselor?
Asks if anyone can take Trina's place. And Andre assumes that Tori can because she heard the song numerous times during rehearsals throughout the week. At first, Tori refuses, but she's forced to by Andre. She slips on a fancy dress and gets on stage.
She slips... Hold! I have issue with the way that's worded.
Before he gets to that, realizing that she has nothing to lose in front of a crowd of strangers, she decides to sing. Yes.
They are taking liberties with that summary.
Now, to get back to, the things that we were discussing about, Dan Schneider, being accused of things, we're not going to get into that necessarily. But, they throw Tori behind a changing, screen.
Forcibly undress her and
put
her in the dress.
You can see her silhouette there. Like, there's nothing led to the imagination right there. This is a little risque for, a children's show.
Yeah, there was absolutely no just her slipping on a dress.
Well, there's also the part
into a dress.
There's also the part of her going, no, I don't want to do this.
As everyone's grabbing her limbs and carrying
While the guidance counselor is like, yes, good.
The calm-mannered guidance
While Andre and the other boys are following her into the changing area.
To be fair, the guidance counselor does say girls only, so, he draws a line somewhere, a little bit. The line's drawn a little bit later than it should be, but it's drawn somewhere. I mean, this is, a common trope that really happens, but, Tori performs and everything's perfectly choreographed whatsoever any sort of rehearsal whatsoever.
She's not a performer.
Yes, so she states in the beginning of the episode when Andre questions, does she go to the school too? She says, I'm not a performer.
So
and proceeds to give a performance better than anything that Trina has showcased that she's possibly capable of doing.
Now, I'm not a performer, but I assume for performers, you have to practice these things. You have to practice choreography and dancing and learn the technical aspects of it. And I assume when Tori says, I'm not a performer, she has no prior experience.
And it's, it's reasonable to assume, like Andre did, that she understands the lyrics and whatnot because she's been there with her sister practicing all week. But obviously things happen off screen. Like, we're not going to say that the Schneider universe, everything's perfectly covered, there's no loopholes here. But we don't see any of these other characters in this rehearsal. It's just her, Trina, and Andre.
It's absolutely reasonable for her to know the song. And songs are pretty ubiquitous in society. It's very plausible that this song is popular in their universe, but there's no way she would know the choreography without doing it.
So this song was apparently written by Andre, so this is the first time that any of them are hearing it. So it's understandable that if she's there with them the entire time while they're practicing, she'll get to learn what the song is like. You hear a song enough times, you'll pick it up. But she starts doing choreographed moves with everyone else
random
on stage.
Background. You get the random guitar people in the back.
And again, it's a very common trope, I understand, and, it's a Nickelodeon show. That's not a high masterpiece of cinema, but come on.
It is high piece. Nickelodeon is pure
high-class,
highbrow cinema.
I stand corrected. So it's the debut of the song Make It Shine. It becomes the theme song, as Nick properly guessed. Something that just stuck out to me, the performance was slower than, we're going to get used to hearing as the show progresses on. I wasn't used to hearing it at that tempo. The thing at this show really that stands out from the rest of the Schneider shows is, how much focus that they put on the original songs. So that's going to become a thing that is a recurring theme throughout the show.
I'm going to assume Ariana Grande, or whatever her name is, doesn't get a lot of songs.
I have no idea who who this Ariane Grande person is. I don't think that, I wasn't really
She's
impressed.
Probably going to be a garbage singer.
Yeah, I wasn't really impressed by anything that we saw from her.
She probably got in for dancing.
Yeah, and, I mean, her acting, nothing special. Yeah. But, so, her top-notch performance surprises the audience, and even herself, and Principal Eichner takes Tori and her parents backstage and offers Tori a once-in-a-lifetime chance to attend the elite performing arts school. Tori doesn't think she's talented enough, but after watching such a strong performance, Andre believes otherwise. He pulls up the curtain and asks the audience if Tori should join them, to which they all chant yes. After a moment, Tori accepts the offer. That's not how admissions work.
Yeah, it is. That's how schools do
it. They're missing a bunch of steps in that.
No, look. When you go to a private school like this, typically they have the student come out on stage. They bring every student into the auditorium and say, "Should we accept them in?" And then through mob rule, they decide.
And typically during these school productions, they ask random people in the crowd to come perform as understudies in the case of people. In the case that people can't perform their duties, as Jonah is making a ruckus throughout the studio here. But, they just leave this up to fan vote.
As all admissions should be, not based on, academic success, but by mob rule.
I mean, yes, this is a performing arts school. Obviously, auditions would be a thing, but it would be an audition in front of actual staff members that would make a decision after conversing with each other, instead of one student turning to the audience and saying, "Should we let her in?" And
keep in mind that this student was not the one who was originally supposed to perform here.
Exactly.
Just some random person they picked up and forced against her will.
And, what happens if she bombs? No one's discussing this.
Oh, they'll still let her in. They'll take the money.
Does the showcase just, end? And no one talks about any of this anymore?
Even if she bombed, I'm sure the school would have let her in anyway, just for the money.
I made sure to make a note that Tori is an absolute liar, and I had liar capitalized and underlined 3 times, because she talks about not being a performer. She absolutely looked like a performer up on that stage.
Well, I mean, obviously, she's clearly against all of this and is super nervous. And as soon as she just stands on stage, all of it subsides because she's wearing a sparkly dress. And
I mean, that's how it is for me. I put on a sparkly dress, and all of a sudden...
Is that why you're wearing that right now, Kenny?
Absolutely.
That's
I can't do a podcast outside of a sparkly dress.
Little people know that when Trump was beginning his campaign race, he wore a sparkly dress. That's how he really started to sway people's minds.
Very interesting.
He was nervous. He was like, I don't know if I can go out there. Give me the sparkly dress.
Is that what he was wearing under his tuxes during the...
terrific.
Now, I also made sure to note that this Hollywood art school is a place where education is a no.
And we're about to get into, the dichotomy of Hollywood arts.
Also the various no-nos of teaching.
And Nick, you being a teacher yourself, you were taking some criticisms and some anger towards some of the things that were happening in this school, which we'll get to in a second. So after this showcase happens, the crowd resoundingly says, yes, let her in, and for some reason the school feels obligated to do so. So during her first day at Hollywood Arts, Tori gets lost and meets Robbie Shapiro, a shy boy who often speaks to his ventriloquist dummy, Rex. Tori also meets Kat Valentine, a hyper and happy but sensitive girl who's easily upset, often shouting what's that supposed to mean when she feels offended. So the puppet that you noticed in the background
I have questions.
Immediately shows up.
So, is the puppet its own sentient being?
So, yes and no. I mean, it's...
Does he have split personality disorder?
I mean...
This character absolutely has a psychological condition.
He speaks
this character with the character in situations where there's no reason for the puppet to be there.
This school needs to have, a psychologist on board to help him. He needs, a one-to-one following him around and being
he does,
no!
The puppet's a one-to-one.
No, what's his name, Robbie?
Yes, Robbie.
No, Robbie. The puppet is not sexually harassing her. You are.
And, we did make note that, people just perform in hallways during this. Tori walks into the school, and then there's people drumming on, paint buckets.
Yeah, and later in the episode, she's outside, and there's just a person handstanding.
During class, by the way, she walks out of the classroom, and there's 2 people in the hallway that are both doing handstands. I mean, I understand that things are different in other schools, but when we were in high school, like, you couldn't walk around the hallway without someone coming up to yell at you.
There's no school in America that goes, oh yeah, just do handstands by the stairs.
You know, and Tori comes into the school. She's very nervous. Trina says there's nothing wrong with being average. Trina says to her clearly superior sister in every way, shape, and form. Trina immediately abandons Tori when she finds out that a boy changed his haircut. So then we meet Kat and Robbie. Kat makes her debut. She's a crazy space cadet. You know, very one-dimensional, it seems like so far. And, you know, I obviously have more of a understanding of where this character is going.
I have no idea
the
what
other two. But I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on the characters of Robbie and Kat.
Well, Kat, I don't really know that much about. She didn't really do anything. She seems nice.
I don't know. Kat did get a chuckle out of me with the weird cat name joke where she was confused by it and offended for no reason.
I agree with that. I think
there's something that didn't make any sense, and that's kind of style of humor I do enjoy.
This show really, you know, has a lot of that haha random funny humor, and sometimes it hits, and sometimes it just leaves you saying, what was the point of that?
I assume Kat's going to be more of the comedic relief.
Yes, she's, at least from everything that I remember, and, you know, we were discussing before we started, you know, I think that I got through most of the first 2 seasons of this show before, you know, I just stopped watching. So, from what I remember, you know, a lot of the jokes that revolve around her are just her being a ditzy little, you know, person that doesn't understand anything that's going on. She does have some character development later on, but, you know, from the start, as our first introduction to her, you know, it's very one-dimensional. She's, you know, an airhead that doesn't understand anything. And, you know, Kenny, I do agree with you. Some of those things landed with me, too, just because it's so outlandish. Like, why would anyone say that? And it catches you off guard. But we're going to get into my favorite character in a little bit.
Is it the puppet?
It is not the puppet. So after meeting Kat and Robbie, Robbie, through the puppet Rex, who, by the way, is sexually harassing Tori during all of this. And apparently it's fine because it's coming through the dummy and not the person that's holding the dummy, and no one seems to acknowledge that, but I digress.
I assume that, like, with the puppet is, like, Robbie's true personality escaping.
And, you know, you see that he's a very socially awkward person through this episode, and maybe this is his way of, like, being able to break out of his shell, but you can't say these things.
No, you can't. He needs help. And I assume he's going to get no help. But they're going to make the problem worse, probably.
So Robbie, through Rex, gives Tori directions to her first class with Mr. Psychowitz, who is by far my favorite character on this entire show.
He's by far a terrible teacher.
Which is why he's my favorite character on this entire show. And we can go into your problems with Psychowitz in a second. When she gets to the classroom, Tori enters and accidentally bumps into Beck Oliver, spilling her coffee onto his shirt. When Beck's short-tempered and overprotective girlfriend Jade West walks in, she becomes mad at Tori for rubbing her boyfriend, which in her books is a flirtatious
move. That's a direct quote. She says, "Why are you rubbing my boyfriend?"
If you're just rubbing some guy, it is kind of flirtatious. And
there's a difference between rubbing someone and trying to blot out the coffee on their shirt. You know, and the first interactions we see between Tori and Beck, you know, there's clearly romantic tension there.
Yeah, they're clearly the will they, won't they potential couple that is in every sitcom.
And, of course, you have the girlfriend that treats him like garbage and, you know, is everyone that comes out to hate, blah, 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 blah. I mean, clearly, it's one episode in. Nobody's supposed to like this character, Jade.
I like her.
And what were your thoughts, guys?
I think Jade is interesting. I have a feeling she's going to be kind of a dick to everyone.
I feel like her character is going to go one of two ways. Either she's going to continue to be this exact same character where she's the archetype evil girlfriend turned evil ex, or she's going to experience character growth and become part of the crew. But having seen the show, I don't know which way it's going to go, so there's potential.
So I assume she's going to become part, because when you go through like the cast list on Google, she's the third name.
So, from the outset, through one episode, like, what direction would you guys want to see this character go through, I guess? Because I can sit here and say I know where this is going, because I do. But, I think it's kind of interesting from an outside perspective of people that have never seen the show before, what your thoughts on where this character goes through.
I hope she joins the crew, because I don't find the evil person staying evil the entire time very compelling.
Especially, the over-cliche goth.
Yeah.
Wearing super black and just being angry and evil at life.
I hope she joins the crew, but is still mean, Tori.
The first real joke that landed with me in this episode was when Psychowitz is introducing Tori to the class, and he says, "Thank you for the $2 this morning," and then it's just like an awkward pause, and then Andre turns to Tori and says, "Why did you do that?" And she says, "I thought he was homeless."
Which is not okay. You should not profile people as homeless.
I mean, he looks like an absolute psychopath, hence the name Psychowitz. But, I mean, you clearly had an issue with his portrayal as a teacher.
Well, when you're a teacher, you don't take money from students.
I don't think that's
a no-no. With, even outside the school, you don't take money from them.
Well, to be fair, they didn't know that they were a student-teacher relationship when they were outside. He didn't know if he was in the class.
I mean, when he was in the room, he clearly indicated that he knew who she was beforehand.
But she clearly didn't know who he was because, she was when she walks into the classroom, she says, "This is our teacher,"
and we didn't see the interaction. So he could have been saying, "No, I'm not homeless," and he's just trying to force it to
Well,
him.
Future evidence, I can say he did not say no.
Maybe he's just doing it for the bit where it's an improv class. You gotta say yes. That's the first rule of improv.
So speaking of which, during an improvisation exercise, Psychowitz asks Jade to choose 4 other students to act with. She chooses Kat, Beck, Tori, and Eli. He asks Robbie to pick a setting, and he chooses home, and Andre chooses big news as the situation. Just before they begin, Jade asks Tori to go and wait in the hallway. The scene starts with Beck, the husband, getting fired from his job, and Kat and Eli, the kids, complaining about this situation. Jade tries to cheer them up by telling them she got them a new dog, and Tori enters and gets onto the stage. Jade claims that dogs usually have fleas and ticks in their fur, and schemingly tells the kids that coffee is a good way to get rid of them. Get them out. Ignoring Beck and Andre's instructions to stop, Jade pours an entire cup of coffee on Tori's head as revenge for flirting with her boyfriend. So Psychowitz sits there while this entire improv act is going on.
No, he doesn't sit there. He encourages it.
He encourages this active bullying that everyone can see where this is going.
Not just verbal bullying, but extending into physical bullying as well. He sits there and does nothing and instead goes, "What great improv!" While this poor girl is being emotionally damaged.
So you're a teacher. Let's put you in the shoes of Psychowitz. What do you do when you see this situation?
Well, the first thing you do is not let them both get on stage together. That's how you shut it down immediately.
So you don't put the bully in the position of putting the victim in the spotlight of being bullied further.
Yes. It's clear from the very beginning she has an antagonistic attitude towards her. So you would not let her pick her up and put her in the show where she's in a position of power.
Embarrassed and upset, Tori runs from the room and attempts to call her mother, hoping that she can take her out of the school. Andre meets up with Tori in the hallway and takes her phone from her. Tori feels that she should simply give up and face the fact that she isn't unique at all. Andre then tells her that everybody is unique and special in their own way, and dissuades her from walking away because of Jade.
While this is going on, this is in the middle of class still, so the teacher just goes, "Go, Andre! Go! Leave the room! Go find her!"
And he just keeps sending people out of the room.
Andre's gonna go home, can't go!
And then when Andre doesn't come back within 5 seconds, out comes the puppet, and then when the puppet doesn't come back, Kat comes in 5 seconds later, and, clearly the class isn't right outside. She walks down the hallway and gets almost hit by someone doing a handstand. Which, again, why is this going on in the middle of class?
What is going on in the classroom? Is he just going like, okay. Oh, man, Kat's taking a while. Go, puppet child. Go find them and come back.
Which, again, you can't just...
And poor Eli's probably still on the stage like, are we still doing improv?
Also, I don't think Eli's ever mentioned or seen again in the show. So, one thing that I made note of is that Andre says this place isn't different from all other schools.
It absolutely is.
It is way different. There's no hall monitors. There's no kind of security in place. The teachers don't care. They're not learning anything. Bullying is completely okay. Peer pressure is okay. There's no infrastructure in place for learning.
One thing that I also found a little humorous, when Robbie comes out, Kat calls Rex a puppet, and Andre says, Robbie says, stop calling him a puppet. That's an offensive term. Again,
that's where they draw the line on things that are not okay. Forcing them to do against their will is not okay. Bullying is okay. But
the other problem with this is that he doesn't give her the correct term, because it's clear he doesn't know what the correct term is, and now neither do we, because he doesn't...
The writers don't know the correct term would be, because there is none.
So we have this thing that we don't know what to properly call it. So Tori goes back into class.
Consciousness impaired.
So we cut ahead to the second day of school. Tori is chosen to pick the actors for a game of alphabet
Jonah,
improv.
can you chill?
Jonah's very excited about this scene, the climax of the episode. Tori's chosen to pick the actors for a game of alphabet improv. She picks Andre, Kat, Beck, and Jade. Now, before they get on stage, Jade starts making out with Beck in front of the entire class.
Also, you do not let students do that in a classroom. Just out of proof that it's gross.
Sikowitz just makes a sarcastic remark and, just doesn't mention anything and just forgets it and lets the show go on.
Also, are the other students in this class ever going to be allowed to do anything? Or is it just going to be like the core four?
Well, obviously, as an ensemble cast show, we're going to focus only on them. But yeah, this is an issue with a lot of these shows like this, shows that focus on things with a large, secondary cast, nothing ever happens with them. And you just wonder, what's going on in the rest of this class.
Those students probably oh yeah, we're just going to sit down. Let me guess. It's going to be Beck, Jade, Tori,
and Kat again.
And maybe Kat. Oh, wow, what a surprise.
I like to think that these characters all get A's, though, at least, so they don't have to participate, but they're getting good grades, at least.
Well, also,
no, they'll probably fall. He's going to go, how come you haven't performed once this semester? And they'll go, because you keep picking Jade to pick all the people.
Because you don't even know my name. Sikowitz is sitting there drinking milk from a coconut while all this is going on. So during the game, Jade and Tori are fighting, but they follow the rules, while other actors are eliminated. Beck also fainted, which left Jade and Tori for most of the game. When Jade is eliminated, the other students cheer for Tori, beating Jade as Beck wakes up again.
Well, the teacher does nothing with more verbal bullying going on now.
Tori gets revenge on Jade by kissing Beck, which is the start of Jade and Tori's rivalry.
Beck does not care at all that he's in a relationship. He's like, Tori's here.
So, on one hand,
main character.
One hand, I get it. As an actor, you have to, sort of just do these things, and you can't really pick and choose. But on the other hand, your girlfriend's sitting right there. She clearly has an issue with this girl for no apparent reason. But you're not going to get it.
I think her reason is a little validated when he starts making out with her.
But, yes, but the reason that she hates her to begin with is because she was, quote, rubbing her boyfriend.
Which is also something that, if you walked in, I'm just going to say rubbing, if she's in a relationship and she sees some other girl rubbing her boyfriend, there are some issues that could be had.
I want to say two things about this. First, I want to say I do love that improv game.
It's a great game.
It's really fun.
Whose Line does it amazing. It's one of my favorite games from Whose Line, where they just do alphabet improv.
Yep, the alphabet game is a lot of fun. So I was happy to see that, especially in the pilot, bringing that up, especially in an improv class. And two, the teacher absolutely could have stepped in, because they were one line away from just throwing hands. Just absolutely going at each other.
And, it starts as thinly veiled bullying, but it quickly, as soon as, everyone else...
I wouldn't say thinly veiled. It's more blatantly,
Well, it kind of started out a little passive-aggressive, where it's okay, maybe they are in the scene.
But then it just starts telling Tori to jump off a cliff. And
what I get is, I assume this takes place the day after.
Yes.
Why would he let them go back up together? He poured coffee on him!
Because he was distracted drinking milk from a coconut.
After he came into the building through the window.
Which he also questions as Tori returns, have you ever considered entering through the window? And she says no, like a normal human being. To which he responds, you should. Like I said, by far my favorite character, just because of the random...
Oh, yeah, something earlier that I noted, during one of the performances when Kat was there, during the show, he offers to get her off stage by bribing her with candy. And my first thought was, wow, this character is going to get molested by some dude in a van.
So the episode ends with Tori and Beck kissing, and Tori ends the episode by saying, I love this school. That transition, happened extremely quickly. You don't go from getting bullied mercilessly to just all of a sudden, loving everything that you just hated about 24 hours ago.
Look, I assume it's a performing art, I'm putting that in air quotes, but it's actually a mental institution for the insane.
So that's the end of the pilot. What were your guys' thoughts?
As a pilot goes, I thought it was decent.
Yeah, it was a pilot. I don't know how it's going to continue, but
I got some sensible
I guess that's
chuckles.
what the whole point is. We're going to keep watching.
I mean, I personally don't remember the pilot. From my remembrance, I thought the pilot ended right after the performance at the showcase. And I don't know if this was just
that
because...
happened, the performance ended, the first 10
That was
minutes.
It was done within the first 10 minutes. We were like, wow, how fast did that go?
And I don't remember if this is just me misremembering, or if there was a different...
I feel like they originally had this plan as a two-parter, and they were like, nah, we'll make it one.
Maybe when the pilot originally aired, it was longer with the the practice sort of thing going on. But this wiki article, has them all together as one. So maybe I'm just misremembering.
It goes straight from her sister sings it poorly. She listens to it. She talks to Andre. Her sister's tongue explodes. She goes on stage. She's in the school, bullying. She bullies back. Makes out with someone's boyfriend, and then that's it. Everything's good. And there's a creepy puppet.
I mean, so, again, as the person with the most experience watching the show, which is a sentence I never thought I would say in public, I definitely think the later episodes are better, just because they're the ones that stick out to me most memorably. I was caught off guard by some of the humor. I don't remember Psychowitz being that enjoyable of a character. And, knowing what I know that comes up in later episodes, obviously this isn't a show a la Breaking Bad where all the episodes connect with each other. It's obviously...
Look, they could. In their own way.
One episode at a time. You really don't have to watch the other episodes to really understand what's going on here. But there is some character development that will be coming up later on. Clearly the seeds were set for this Tori-Beck relationship that, it's not very... Not subtle. Not subtle about it at all.
They didn't really explore Beck's character at all. He's just
the pretty boy.
Yeah, he walks in looking down at his phone, too cool to look up, bumps into people.
Yeah, we really didn't
makes out with any girl that says yeah.
With him, we didn't really see any development at all.
The puppet
it seems like he's supposed to be a major player, more so than Kat. Kat didn't really have any.
She's just there to get laughs. It looks
but. You could tell if he was meant to be a comic relief, not a main character.
Yeah, the puppet's meant for sexual harassment jokes. That slip by the censors, it's a puppet.
You understand, Kat and Beck probably had as much screen time together, basically, but you understand what Kat's character is. Yeah. Beck's character, I don't remember him having a laugh track behind him at all, really.
He was just there to be an object for Tori to go after.
And obviously, I can say that he does get some more screen time and more development as the show goes on, but...
you could have replaced Beck with, anything else and it still would have worked fine. It could have been Jade's pen that Tori stole, and the episode would have went the exact same. Only with her making out with a pen.
I guess to really wrap things up for this episode, what sort of questions do you guys have that are left unanswered, from this pilot that you're looking to for the work of Dan Schneider to continue to explore?
Is the puppet is this the origin of the ventriloquist from Batman? That's my question.
Kenny, you have any closing thoughts?
I think the only thing I'm curious about is see how all these characters develop, if there's any major changes between the pilot and the first proper episodes. Because you see that pretty commonly where characters all of a sudden change. I don't think in this show there's a change in actor, but you've seen shows where they change entire actors and change characters. I don't think there's a major change, at least not from what I've looked at on the Wikipedia, but I just want to see how it continues, see how these characters change.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for the pilot of the pilot. Thank you for tuning in. We will be running through this show season by season, episode by episode, till we cover all of the great works of Dan Schneider here on the Schneidercast. I'm John.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Kenny.
We'll see you next time.
Whales aren't real.